Hello, Mark Red Larson here for the Dreamcatcher podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Gina Ramsey from Wisconsin. Welcome to the podcast. And how's everything in Wisconsin?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank
Everything
you.
is good in Wisconsin. Leaves are turning colors and falling, and it's getting quite cold. So,
Yeah, no, winter's on its way. That's for sure. So are you native to Wisconsin?
no, I'm actually was born and raised in the Chicagoland area, the western suburbs,
Okay,
Carroll Stream, Glendale Heights areas, and we moved to Wisconsin in '92.
92.
So,
Okay,
yep, been
okay.
here ever since.
So what brought you to Wisconsin then?
My husband's family lived up here. My family
Okay.
still lived in Chicago, the Chicagoland area. But my husband was able to, he was a drywall finisher, and so
Okay. I
he
feel
knew a
for him.
couple of construction
Right.
owners up here of construction businesses. So they got him in for, it was during the recession. So there was like no
Ah.
work in the Chicagoland area. And
Oh, wow.
his friend Rick said, "Come on up. I've got plenty of work up here," and so it was the
Yeah.
best thing we could have ever done.
No, that sounds good. So
Hmm.
you're close to. I know the other day we were talking. You're
Yeah,
close to Duluth, Minnesota, or
yeah. Just a few minutes across the bridge.
so?
Yeah.
How far are you from Canada then?
Probably about 3 hours.
Okay,
Yeah,
further than I thought. I thought maybe
yeah,
we were even closer than that. So I mean, that
yeah.
is. So how is where you're at different from Chicago? Is the weather similar?
No, I think that Chicago stays warmer a little bit
Does it?
longer.
Okay.
But it's the windy city, so but wind
True.
is everywhere. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. But where we're up, we're at the head of Lake Superior,
Okay.
and it is just beautiful. And I just read
I
something the other
bet.
day that talked about how Lake Superior isn't technically a lake, it's an inland sea because it's that big.
Wow, I've never heard
Yeah.
that before. That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
I hadn't either. So, but when we get some really strong winds, they say it's about at a category 1 hurricane like
Wow, you do
speed.
get some wind up there.
Oh
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
that's unbelievable. I mean,
yeah.
and I know we talked earlier. So do you get snow, or you normally don't get snow, or
We do. A lot of times Lake Superior pushes it out like south of us. Some of the heavier snowfalls in
uh-huh.
east. Bayfield and Ashland, Wisconsin get hammered every winter. But
Okay.
last year we actually had record snowfall in the Duluth and
Lucky you.
Superior area. Yeah, right?
If you love snow, I guess that is lucky.
Yep, yep.
So okay. So what do you do in where you're at in Wisconsin
Yeah,
yourself? What do you do?
so I'm a social worker by trade. I work in the medical social work profession, work for the VA healthcare system, and so working with our vets, serving our nation's heroes.
Awesome.
And yeah, and then my husband and I also own a business, Cerakoting. It's a finish that goes on sporting and recreational equipment.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
we run that, and then now as of recent, I've decided, hey, I think I'm going to become an author. So
Okay. And I was seeing that. So I see
yeah,
entrepreneur. You're
yes.
at. I like that. So is that something you came up with, or what is exactly are you going with that word? What do you?
Yeah. So it's kind of a funny story. So when I started getting into the author thing, I was told, you got to treat it like a business. It is a business, and so I had to get my LLC and all this stuff, and
Oh yeah, I bet.
going through that, I'm like, well, what's the business name? What's the business? Okay, Gina Ramsey, entrepreneur. That's a good one.
Uh-huh. It is. It's awesome. No,
Yeah,
I
so,
like
but
that one.
really I expand myself out, not just writing books, but also helping other aspiring authors and other authors to help them to find resources and networking opportunities to help them to be successful as well.
Okay, very cool. So
Yeah.
did you always want to write books or write?
Well, it's funny because when I was in high school, junior high, and all of that, I
Uh-huh.
never even crossed my mind that I would ever
Uh-huh.
be an author. I hated English class. I avoided reading like the
That's
plague
me.
unless it
Yep.
was, yeah, unless it was something
Yep.
I was interested in. So, but as I got into college, I decided to go to college. I do things the hard way, so I decided to go to college when my
I
kids.
think we all do at times.
Yeah. So when my kids were, being raised, I decided, hey, I think I'm gonna start studying like a mad woman. So, anyways, yeah. So, where was it going with that? Oh my gosh, lost my train of thought. Yeah. So,
Yeah. About
So
wanting to write. Yeah.
yeah. So we started having all these crazy things happening in our world, like Murphy's Law stories, and as I was going to college, I really enjoyed writing papers.
Okay.
I enjoyed the things I didn't in high school. I think in high school you're being made to do it, and this was on my own account. Yeah,
different when the college.
yeah.
Yes.
So, so I had people saying you should write a book, and I said, yeah, that would be really cool to write a book with all the stories. And so that was probably about over 20 years ago that I said that I'm gonna do this, and I wrote my first outline. And yeah, here I am.
So how did you learn, to write the book? How did you find out how to do that?
I didn't know. I honestly, I didn't. I knew that in explaining stories, you're very expressive and you're like making faces and moving your hands around, I knew, and I don't know how I knew this, because I never took any writing classes, but I knew that I had to like bring out that expression through use of words. And cool. But as I was writing my book, I signed up for a writing class, and I'm still with this author. She has weekly classes, and she talks about the structure of writing. So that was really
very nice.
Instrumental in helping me to like really learn how to tell the story, like show it instead of just telling it, showing the reader, like bringing them next to me.
Which you're,
yeah. So.
Okay, so I and thank you for the book. This book that I have that you sent to me. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so like I said, about 20 some years ago, we had a glove box that burnt up. So the book is Burnt Glove Boxes, Embracing Life When It Goes Up in Flames. Yeah, there it is with the rubber chicken. So so after saying all this time, I'm going to write a book. When that happened, that event, when my glove box burned, I knew that was going to be the title. And so that's when I started typing up my outline, like what possible story titles. And I put that in a manila folder, and I wrote Burnt Glove Boxes on it. And I carried that around with me for all of those years.
I love that.
If I went on vacation, I took it with me. Took it everywhere, just in case I would like start writing, right?
And something that would fit into that book, which sounds like you have a lot of opportunities for that. So.
Right, exactly. But also, if something would happen on that vacation, I would jot it down. Or if somebody would tell me a story, I would jot their story down, like a little title, just because my hope was from the very beginning is turning it into an anthology similar to Chicken Soup for the Soul, which those are cool. Those are inspirational stories, but mine will be all the Murphy's Law stories that are out there. So I call those folks who experience similar crazy things the Burnt Glove Box community.
Which we're all we all have that happen. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is cool. So, how you were telling me that when we were talking before we did the podcast, something that somebody that said you were like Irma Bombeck, or who was that?
Yeah. So I'm part of a women's networking group, and it's done virtually. And I got hooked with the owner of this business, and she had I got hooked up with her a while back through a friend. And I hadn't joined her networking group, and but I followed her on Facebook, and her posts, just for all the listeners out there, if you are doing a business, like be that authentic person. Don't constantly sales pitchy and all of that.
Yes.
But that's what she was. She was very authentic, and like she would post just fun stuff, and
Uh-huh.
I would say something, about her dog, and she would answer back, and so I just was
Cool.
like, it's just different. She's not like, oh, and by the way, you want to sign
Uh-huh.
up for my thing.
Uh-huh. I love
So
that too.
yeah, so she had said that she was looking for launch partners for her book. She had wrote her
Okay.
book. Her name's Jill Celeste, and her book is called Loud Woman.
Okay.
And it's, I thought, well, I'm kind of interested in what that means. I've always wanted to be an
Mm-hmm.
author. So
Right.
I asked her about it, and she said, yeah, she explained like what a launch partner is, and you just help to spread the word about the book that week
Right.
of the launch.
Okay.
And she said, well, think about it. And I said, I will. And I didn't even think about it for 24 hours. I just knew I was meant to help her.
Right.
And so
Right.
I reached out to her. I said, you know what? Put me on. I'm going to help you with this. And so glad I did. And so then I joined
Mm-hmm.
Virtual Networkers and found that a lot of the women in there are published authors.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm like, so then my ears are perking up,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
like, really? How did you
Uh-huh.
guys do this? Because I want to write a
Uh-huh.
book. And then my publisher, Debbie Keevan, she is part of my chapter.
Okay.
And so I told her, I said, her business is Highlander Press. And I said, hey, I'm interested in having you take a look at my work. And so she said, send me a sample. So I sent her that. And she said, and I'll schedule another meeting with you
Sure.
to talk about if this is,
Right.
because a lot of people get these, rejections. This isn't a good fit
Yeah.
for us or whatever.
Yep. Right.
And it's just all part of the authorship thing.
Yeah.
You have to embrace it. I guess Stephen King posted his all over his house.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's
But
tough, but
definitely part of the
yeah.
process. So.
Exactly. So when we set up that meeting, we got on the call and she was laughing, which was totally not what I expected. I don't know what I
Uh-huh.
expected, but I was just hoping she wouldn't get on there and go, you should never ever write
Right.
again.
No, I know what you mean there. Yes. Yes.
Don't quit your day job. And I still can't quit my day job, but anyways. But she said, she said, she was laughing. She said, I love the poultry guy story. She said, I love the sausage story, which that'll be in my second book.
Mm-hmm.
She said, your writing reminds me a lot of Irma Bombeck.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, wow, that's kind of a
Yeah.
remarkable
Like a
statement.
compliment. Yeah.
And she said, I would love to take on your project. What are your visions? And I said, this has been my vision the whole time, and I didn't know the terminology. So I'm
Sure.
like,
Right. Yeah.
I want to
You
do
knew.
a series with other books. She goes, okay, that's an anthology.
Uh-huh. Well, when you're new, that's how you learn. Yes.
Exactly, yeah. So
Yeah.
here's this idiot walking into this blindly, learning along the way. But,
Yep.
that's, I think, a lot of people,
It is, and I think a lot of people don't. They think they need to know it all to be, and I'm the same way. You think you need to have everything in place before you can start, and thing
Right.
is, the only way you do is to start. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
but you got a second book coming out then? When you said,
I do. So we've had so many things happen in our lives. So the transcript that I sent to Debbie
uh-huh.
was, so there's a certain amount of pages that are typical for each genre of
Oh,
book.
okay,
And so she called me and she said, hey, just want to let you know that we're going to have to split this in half.
mm-hmm. Awesome.
So, yeah, so the second book will come out next spring, and
Okay.
that will have 5 stories and from the Burnt Glove Box community.
Okay.
And so that'll kind of be the launching point for the anthology.
Very, very cool. So,
Yeah.
have you ever? Do you have desire to write more seriously? All right, I don't know what I'm talking. More. I don't know. I think you know what I mean there. Do you
Yeah.
have that, or is that something that's not really
So
part of what you?
so fiction is not something that I would be interested in doing. Hats off to people who can write fiction and
Yeah.
develop these stories, but I guess I have, like, my gift is like the stories happen to me, so they're already there.
It is.
I don't have to make anything up, you know.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
But I do work on memoir, a little bit of memoir. And this
Okay.
is like Burnt Gloveboxes is really memoir, you know, but with a funny
True,
spin
yeah.
on it, you know.
Yeah, it is.
But those stories are harder for me to write.
Can understand that.
You know, to get into that serious stuff and to really dig deep into some of those things. And I was explaining that to my youngest daughter at one point and said, you know, I really want to write this story. And this was for my writing group. And I
Okay.
said, because it speaks to my fear and what held me back, I think, and kind
Oh
of shut
wow.
me
Okay.
down.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I'm really having a hard time writing it. And I've had people say, you know, well, it's not ready to be written yet. And it's like all the
True.
stuff. And Katie said, you know, you're so used to humor. You watch humor. You know, everything for you is, you know, has a funny spin. So to dig
Uh-huh.
deep into something like
Yeah.
that is probably a lot harder to construct that.
I could see
But
that.
I did it, and it was a wonderful thing,
Okay.
because it was an event that happened to me in junior high where I
Ah,
had
okay.
written a story, and
Right.
the assignment was we were to read the story in front of the class. And I
Okay.
got to a point in the story, and a bunch of classmates started laughing,
Oh,
and it shut me down. And so
can
I
understand
kind
that.
of didn't feel like my words were worth putting out there because I'm going to get laughed at, you know? And maybe that's why I like the humor thing because,
Could be too.
you know, yeah.
And
But
it's tough to be laughed at, but I think especially specifically at that age too. I think that
yeah,
really is tough.
yeah. And it
So
was a really traumatic thing. My dad had had heart surgery, you know, when I was in eighth grade and he almost
right.
died. And
Oh
so,
wow.
so I'm like, oh, this is what I'll write about. And I was like
Right.
really passionate about it. And, you know, really, it was cool writing the story because I was able to, so my writing coach talks about like having compassion for other people and the reasons why they might have done what they did. And,
Okay.
you know, and it's not to say, you know, like, that person wasn't bad to you or whatever, but
Right.
the spin I put on it is like everybody's trying to fit in during school, you know, during
Yes.
school years. And so
Oh yes.
maybe, you know, one person left and the rest of them followed along just to fit
Eh,
in,
Very much. Yes.
you know. So it was
Yeah.
like a really great thing of really self-awareness. What kind of has, you know, like I've come twofold from that. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm okay and I'm
Yeah.
doing great in
Right.
this.
Yep.
And then the other thing is that compassion part. And like
Yeah.
it was like a forgiveness because I don't know that I ever like said, "Oh, I'll never forgive those
Hmm.
kids." This came up after I wrote my book or while I was writing it. I remembered this story,
Yeah. Those.
and I'm
Yes.
like, "Holy cow!" The impact that had. So
Mhm.
teach your kids not to bully.
Yeah, and it is at that age because I don't think well, kids. I don't think realize how much that does. Life can last a lifetime
Yeah,
and keep
yeah,
people from going forward. I'm glad you went forward anyway, but some people,
yeah.
I would say, good sure people don't because it comes back up. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like, why is that coming up now? And
Yeah.
so, so if somebody was wanting to write, how would you tell them to get started? I mean, if they've always
Oh,
wanted to be an author, and what would you tell them?
yeah. That's a great question. So, where I started was NaNoWriMo. So it's November Writing Month.
Okay, okay,
And it's
cool,
it's an organization, and they do like fundraisers for helping kids literary, so
nice,
helping kids to write. And Jill told me about that too. But it doesn't cost anything to be in it, but you set
very nice.
goals of and the goal is you're supposed to write a novel in the month of November.
Oh
And of
wow,
course, like some people can do that. Some
right,
people it takes them years to write a book.
I bet.
So I would always encourage folks to like don't don't have that stuck that in your head that you have to do it in that time frame, but you set up goals, and like it gives you little badges when you put in
Oh,
your
does it? Oh,
how many
okay.
words and stuff, and you're like, oh,
Awesome.
okay, cool. So that was what helped me to get started. You
Okay.
just got to start. You got to start
You do.
somewhere. I would say start by doing that outline like I did. And,
Okay.
you know, it was a dream I wanted to do. And I really feel deeply about when you want to do something, you have a bucket list item.
Yep,
Write,
yep.
write it down. And they say
Amen.
to do that. And I was like,
Yes.
I don't know about
It
that.
brings it
But
into the physical. Yes.
it
Yes.
does. And I'll
Yep.
tell you, like, one writing exercise that I took years ago, it was a journaling thing, but the lady
Okay.
gave you a few minutes to journal. So one of
Uh-huh.
the topics was, you got this amount of time, 1 minute, 2 minutes, write down the items on your bucket list.
Okay,
And I
cool.
wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote.
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing how many of those items I've checked off since
Awesome.
then.
I
Hmm.
love that too. That's another thing
Yeah.
because so many people don't ever do that either.
Yeah.
Well, and most people do when you tell people to write it down to bring it into the physical. It's like, why would that make any difference? I know what and it's like, no, it needs to be right there. It needs to.
Yeah.
There's something
And
about writing it down. Yes, you
yeah.
gonna. I
Yep,
mean,
absolutely. And telling people. When
yes,
you tell someone you're doing something, that's like
it is.
somehow it's an accountability
It
thing.
is very, very much. Yes. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I told him. Now I gotta do it. So
Well, and
there's
if
a lot
and
to
if you
that.
try and if you try to hide, they're gonna ask you, well, whatever happened to that? When are you gonna
Exactly,
write that
they
book?
will.
And I'm like, oh, they're
Yeah.
chasing me now.
Exactly. Oh, and that's the way it would work. Yes. It's like, yes, that is, but it does hold you accountable. And
Yeah.
I love that because I mean, you're a great dream catcher because you've really gone and caught your dreams greatly. But
Hmm.
I do have to ask. So what was one of your dreams when you were a kid? I always ask that at the podcast.
When I was a kid,
Yeah.
oh gosh. I don't remember from a kid's standpoint, but I do remember people saying if you could do anything, like
Uh-huh.
money is not an object, you could
Right.
do anything for a career, what would it be? And I always said I would love to be a travel writer. And it's odd that I used to say
Oh,
that. And,
that
doing
is
photographs and writing
right.
about travel. Um,
Nice.
and here I am,
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah, you just
it's a
yes,
huge thing.
it is. So do you like to travel?
I love to travel. Love to
Okay.
travel.
So
Yeah.
where's one place that you've traveled that you really loved?
Switzerland. the
Oh, I
Swiss, the
would.
Swiss, the Swiss Alps, and that actually was a bucket list trip for me. And I'm at
Cool.
the point in my life where I did this last year in October with
Okay.
my
Okay.
youngest daughter, Katie,
Okay.
and I had a dream, and it
Okay.
was a really, those dreams where you feel like you were actually there,
Yep.
like it was real. You wake up and it wasn't the weird dream. It was
No.
like, oh my gosh, I was sitting there, and I was sitting on in the Swiss Alps looking down into the valley.
Oh, nice.
And I looked at my husband and I said, I'm going there someday. And we would watch the Rick Steves
Oh
videos
yeah.
of Swiss
Yes.
Alps,
Which are
and I was just like, oh
awesome
my
show.
gosh. And so they got it arranged where my daughter said, I'm taking you to Switzerland.
Oh, I love
And
that.
so she and I
So cool.
went, and it was the vision that I had in my dream. So I don't even know, and have always said if I never get to travel anywhere else in the world, I want to at least go to Lauterbrunnen in Switzerland. And
Hmm.
so I made it. And it's so
Cool.
weird because I was always like, oh my gosh, I got to travel. I got to go. I got to go. I got
Right.
to
Right.
go. And ever since that trip, my spirit has settled.
Really? Okay.
I have this calmness.
So you've kind of completed that.
I've
So
completed that, and it's like, do I want to go other places? Absolutely. But
right.
I'm not at a point where I'm like so anxious about it
Okay.
anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a really weird thing. I don't even know, but
Kind of relate with that. So Switzerland, when you got there, was how you envisioned it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
powerful. That
Yeah.
is so powerful. I mean, that is, so did your daughter like it? I'm sure she probably did too.
She's constantly sending me messages and photos and reels. We gotta go back.
So she did like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
we're both like we gotta get unbroke before we go.
yes, because travel is, oh my gosh, travel, just the
Mm.
flight over, yes, and all that is enough.
Well,
But
it was cheaper to fly to Basel, Switzerland than it is to fly to Key West. So
really,
depending on the
wow,
time of the year, and that's really what got her to say we're going.
that
She
was a
got the
good
tickets.
deal.
The tickets were like 700 on Delta round trip per ticket.
Really great.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
So
that is awesome.
and we had perfect weather. They're supposed to like we brought all the gear, like the cold weather gear, the
Oh, sure,
rain
everything
gear,
you would
like
think you'd need, yeah.
oh yeah. And it was sunny skies the entire trip. It was like I couldn't ask for a more perfect trip.
Oh, that is neat. That's
Yeah.
the universe made it perfect, so it met your dreams. So
Beautiful.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so okay, going 5 to 10 years down the road, where would you like to be in your journey?
Oh my gosh. I would really like to be doing a lot more with the authorship and helping
Okay.
other authors. I was chatting with you a little bit before this, and
Uh huh.
possibly a podcast with
Awesome.
women who have been caregivers their whole lives and
Hmm.
doing for everybody else and putting their dreams on hold.
Right.
And because through this process, I've met so many women who have done that. It's just amazing.
Yep.
And I'm like, our world is so full of such negative news and stuff.
Oh yes,
And
it is.
here are people in our communities, beautiful people who are doing such wonderful things and positive things. I
Yep.
really feel like it would be really cool to highlight and shed light on
I
what
love that
people
is
are
so
doing.
cool.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you do. I mean, we are very much geared towards the negative, and
Hmm.
there, anywhere I go, well, kids on up, because I think kids get a bad rap. They don't want to work and all this other stuff. It's like
Yeah.
not the kids that I know, and
Yeah.
well, and Cheryl and I, my wife, we went to Italy in at the end of June and July, and it was just like the people weren't anything like. I mean, they were all awesome, and it was not what I thought because I'd heard, oh, you got to watch out for pickpockets and all this other stuff. I
Yeah.
didn't find that, didn't feel that or have that happen or anything.
Yeah.
But I don't know why as a society we definitely emphasize the negative.
Right.
And it's just if from TV to, well, just like we were talking before with Charlotte's Web, the book that I still can't believe that's on the banned books list. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about it, such a nice, one of my favorite books growing up.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why? I don't know why as a society we don't see this. We ban a book like that, but then we let other media things be out there that are terrible for children growing up. I'm glad I
Right.
grew up when I did. So
I am too. I am
yeah, I
too.
just think it'd be very tough for
Yeah.
and I have a lot of friends in their 20s that have so much anxiety. And I wonder if part of that isn't where the positive, they think that everything is so negative in the world. And at their
Yeah.
young age, they maybe can't see the positives that are out there.
Right.
And, but I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's so cool. I would,
Yeah.
if the more we can do the positivity things in life, the better. So,
Absolutely. And that's really what my goal was in writing the book is,
mhm.
and I've told people this, I think I even wrote it in the beginning, if I can make one person smile and
Mhm.
bring some joy to somebody's world,
Yep.
I know I've done my job and I've
Yes.
like changed our world in a positive way. And it's
Yes.
just like that one little pebble can
Yeah, you
really
get
just,
ripple.
oh
You
my
get a
gosh, the
lot of,
ripple effects.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've done that time and again. And the other thing that I found really cool, and I didn't really think about it when I was writing it, there are a lot of humor books that have quite a bit of language in them. I have a few
Okay.
of them, but they're not
Okay.
children appropriate, and
Right.
it depends on the book, but I just don't feel like you have to. And everybody's got their own thing, so the way
Right.
that they write and stuff. But
Right.
I just feel like, for me personally, I didn't need to like overload that with um,
Hmm.
foul language. And
I
what
agree.
was really cool is that I had parents reading my stories to their kids for bedtime
Oh, cool.
stories.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah, so like being able to take pride in like this is like a book that parents can play, do with their kids or whatever, or read independently with if they need their own time.
Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah, I have one word in there and it had to be in there because I said it.
And that's the way it should be, because
Yeah.
some of these other place those words in there, it's like we're just embellishing, to make it, and think people would, which turns me off, and I go the other way.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
do you, if I can say it, do you do speaking? If I can talk myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I trip over my words too. Yeah, I really want to get into more speaking engagements. I've been doing quite a few podcasts as of recent.
Okay,
And I'm starting to get comfortable with this. Hopefully I'm doing all
cool.
right. I do the shifty eye thing, so and now that I brought it up, everybody's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, she does do that." Trying to keep my eye on the little dot there. It's my little quirk. But anyways, yeah, I was reached out to by the University of Wisconsin Green Bay, and they're
Oh,
gonna
very
they
nice.
have adult learning classes there.
Okay,
And so I'm gonna do some scheduled classes for that in the spring.
nice, very nice.
Yeah, and then I don't know if I'll be on the TED Talks. My girlfriend who I'm staying with, she's always like, "You're gonna be on TED Talk. You're gonna be on
I
this and
think you
that."
will
I'm like,
too. I could see
I
you doing
we'll
that.
see. I'll probably be up there saying
No, and that's what somebody told me, because I've actually thought about doing that myself.
Yeah,
And more of it is, if you get the point across,
yeah,
people are very much more forgiving than,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I say those too much,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
especially when I'm trying not to. So, but I could
Exactly.
see. So, would you want to do a TikTok?
I don't know. Honestly, there was somebody I listened to. I listened to so many different trainings and different things.
Right,
But it was somebody that said, you don't want to ever say no to anything,
right,
um, because you don't know what's going to come out of that.
right,
And, um, and so that's kind of my thing. Like the university reached out to me and said,
right.
we don't have anything else going on right now, but is this something you might be interested in? And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to say no unless it's
Yeah,
something
exactly.
that's like totally like that's not my thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like when I get out and meet other people, that's the beautiful thing of this is
It
like
is.
this is a people business. So for
It
those who
very
are
much is.
out
Yes.
there who are
Yep.
aspiring
Yep.
authors, know you're getting into the people business. And for
Yep.
a lot of us, we're like people think I'm an extrovert. You're an extrovert. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, no,
Yep.
like I'd rather just sit on my couch and not go out to that function that I don't know anybody at.
That
Um,
would be me too. Yes,
yeah,
I can relate.
but it's learning to socialize with people and getting to know people. And there was an event I went to, and I didn't have a whole lot of book sales, but I met a fabulous author there, and now
Yep.
we're connected and just learning her journey into authorship. And it's just like, I don't know, take those opportunities because you
Yes.
never know where they'll lead.
You don't, and I do. It's with the connections. A lot of times, is the people you meet, and
Yeah.
that's where over the years, I've gone to Vegas to see supposedly speakers, but most of the time, it's the people in the audience with the like mind, and it's just like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't remember who spoke, but I remember all these other people that were there. So
Yeah.
you don't, and yeah, that's one thing when you want to always usually at least see where it'll go. And if you try it and it's not for you, then at least you know them. But I'm always of the thing. It's like, gosh, would that have been something? Would have been really good too. So, um,
Absolutely. And if it doesn't go well, then it's just another burnt glove box story, right? So it
it
just
is,
adds
yeah,
to my material.
it does. It's perfect for keep on doing the books here. So yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can see you being a comedian. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Oh gosh. I've had a lot of people say, "Have you done stand up? Have you considered
I can
that?"
see you doing that.
I don't know. I don't know if that's one thing that I would probably be like, I'm gonna leave that to those professionals. So I like being funny with people and quirky with people.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about being up on stage and having like straight faces just looking at me after my punchline and I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh,
And,
now
and,
what?
and I hear you because I think that's one of going to be a really tough profession if they don't
Oh,
get your humor. And I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I think that would be very tough. But I could see you with your
Yeah.
vibe and stuff, and just and it just
Thanks.
and you have plenty of material to pull from just from your first book.
I
So
do, I do.
no, that is so cool. So okay, for the audience, what are some other things you are working on that you would like the audience to know about?
Yeah, so I attended the Irma Bombeck conference. So
Oh, you did? Okay,
if you're
okay.
into humor writing, like definitely attend that. I attended virtually because it was back to back with that Switzerland trip.
Oh, okay.
But it was really cool because I met a lot of people on, in the side chat,
Right,
and
right.
they're all like wanting a writing group, a humor writing
Oh,
group.
nice.
And
Okay.
so three of us decided, well, we'll take this on and we'll get this together. So
Right.
there's a lady from California and a lady from Florida, myself,
Nice.
and we put together guest speakers.
Wow.
We are working on a humor and healthcare book, or it's kind of in the workings right now
Okay.
because we're also like trying to highlight like things that doctors or staff have said or experiences we've had like that
Right.
anxiety and like
Oh, right. Yeah.
really bringing light to those. um the one facilitator, Julie, she went through a couple of cancers and she wrote
Oh,
My Healthcare is Killing Me, and she's a
yep.
beautiful person and she's hilarious. It's like the perspective in life that sometimes those things that you go through, like
Yeah.
her perspective is so beautiful. But it's not a humor book. It's about her
Okay.
journey going from like being a
Mhm.
corporate worker and you know bank account is set, everything, retirement set, all this is set, I got
Yep.
insurance,
Yep.
to having these things like take her down,
Yeah. And
like
you
not
never
being able
know.
to even get help, because she makes a little too much, and having people say,
Yep.
well, you look fine, those types of
Yes.
things.
Which is, yeah, very frustrating when you know you're not. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're collectively working on an anthology to highlight healthcare and like some of the, we don't want to get too serious with it, but really
Sure.
like honor those people who have walked through these systems and struggled through it,
Yes.
and to be able to like put a humor or snarky or humor spin on things. And that's what Julie did through her book, even though it wasn't a humor
Okay.
book. There's a few little areas where she like puts that humor spin or snark into it,
Right.
and it's very beautifully done. And yeah,
That's
so
cool.
our group, we, have people that have gone through,
Hmm.
different types of healthcare journeys, and
Yep.
they're really interested in doing this. So, yeah, if you're
That is
interested
neat.
in being a part of the we call it the Germinators with
Germany.
Yeah, and
It's
it's
not
not
cool.
Germinators, it's Germinators with Irma. And
Oh, perfect.
yeah, so the requirement to be in the group is you have to attend, Irma at some point. So and then we kind of arrange it from there. So we arrange guest speakers, marketing, publishers,
Wow. Okay.
all these different types of things. And really, again, it's a connection, it's a people business, it's a
Yep.
connection business. um, a lot of the folks that we've had to come, I know from this virtual networkers group,
Okay. Okay.
so it's been wonderful. Like, and then the other two ladies get really good speakers as well. But it's where people can connect with these professionals
Very
in the
important.
field and
Yep.
be able to launch their own successes, whatever that means for
Yeah.
them. So
Right. Exactly. And I'm sure
yeah,
that's individual to the person. So, okay.
yeah,
That is so cool. I like that a lot. And you just taking something like that. My wife went through cancer in 2015. That's what got this whole journey started,
sure,
and everything that goes through that. And you do. she actually, when she lost all her hair and everything, she started wearing hats from her grandparents, and stuff and pins, and it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is, and dealing with the medical system and everything like that too. So does your husband help you with this? What you're doing?
He does, and it's crazy. My writing coach, she always says she never reads any of it to her husband. She wouldn't
Okay.
recommend reading it to your husband or anybody. But my husband, like, well, he lived the stories with me, and he's
Right,
like
right.
he's kind of like the gesture of all of it.
Uh-huh.
Like the
That
fun,
works.
the funny one that's
Is that
always breaking rules and
is
stuff.
that
You'll see him in a podcast walking back and forth in his Green Bay Packers shorts, and I'm like,
oh, is
that's
that works?
lovely. Thank you for that.
Uh-huh.
Well, I only
Uh,
saw you were this big on the screen. Yeah, but I'm like this big on the...
oh,
They see you. But
oh,
anyways,
that's funny.
yeah, so I would get done with the story and like, and he's like, well, that doesn't, I'll read it and, oh, that's really, really good. Oh, I would reword that section and like,
Kind of
and
critiques then. Okay.
he's not a writer, but like, he's amazing with like editing and like
Oh, really? Okay.
really, and but he's an avid reader. So
Oh, okay.
maybe that's
Okay.
where that comes from.
True.
But yeah, he was really instrumental in helping me with, you know, making sure that the story sounded good. And then, of course, Debbie has been just such a saint in like putting up with my, um,
Uh-huh.
little nuances and
Right.
teaching me, as I go.
True.
I've been seriously blessed and so blessed to
Yeah.
have her in my corner. So
That is worth so much.
yeah.
So what's the name of your podcast going to be? Do you have a title for your
Oh
podcast?
gosh, no, I've just
No?
recently thought I've actually you're trying to push me to that.
Yes.
when yeah, I don't know, I've been thinking about that. I have like I really want to like expand business, and so I'm thinking up names for that. And so it may not always be Gina Ramsey Entrepreneur. I may like have that as my title and then have an
And then something.
overarching
Okay.
business. Yeah.
Right.
But right now, just trying to get through the edits for my second book,
Yep.
which are due on the 20th. For real.
Oh. Oh, wow. That's not very far away.
Well, it's like tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
yeah, I really want
all-nighters?
to. Yeah. Exactly, and that's when I write is late at night, and
Okay. So
yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, that is. And I think there's something about it, especially that close to deadline, that definitely
yeah.
that pushes you. So,
But I will promise
so
you this: that once I have the title for the podcast, you will be the first to know.
thank
Besides
you.
my
I
husband.
appreciate it. Okay, thanks, Gina. I love that. Thank you. I look forward to seeing your podcast because I just like I said earlier, vibration, your vibe, everything is just
Thank you.
is very it just brimming with positivity. Just it's so cool.
Thank you.
And I think unless there's anything else you want to share with the audience, maybe tie it up right there, or if there's anything else you
Yeah,
want.
just like if you want to check out my book, you can follow me on www.ginaramseyauthor.com.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, which is now X. I don't even know what that means
I don't
anymore.
either.
And then that's new, so I'm trying to figure that out. But Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Gina Ramsey, yeah, and you can buy the book off of Amazon, or your local bookstores can order it for you. It's print on
Perfect.
demand, so you just order it and they'll order it in for you.
Cool.
And yeah, just follow because I have a blog. Oh, I didn't tell you about that.
Oh
So
yeah. Okay. A
it's called
blog.
yeah. I've got to get writing.
Okay, that works.
I'm like, I'm gonna do this. But it's on Substack, and it's called What's Mishappening.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's just like kind of the littler stories that
Okay.
happen, mishaps. But yeah, you can follow my blog on that, and yeah, just follow the next coming books, and we will have open submission periods
Okay.
for the anthology. So the first anthology book will be animals, so it can be pet stories, zoo animals, wildlife,
Okay.
whatever. but
Cool.
mishaps with all of those types of
Okay.
furry animal friends that we have. So, but
Cool. That'll be awesome.
yeah, but
Okay.
just watch for that. And if you do have stories, if you feel like you're not much of a writer, my publisher and I are talking about, I can help you with ghostwriting. I did that with a few of the people that are in the second
Okay.
book.
Wow.
So, yeah, just talk about your story and then write it, and I can write it for you. And so, yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
I think that would get a lot of people doing it if they knew that they didn't have to do the actual writing there, or or
right.
the. So I think
Yeah,
that
I mean,
is
some people are very comfortable with that, and other people are like, I don't even know how to write this. So,
yeah.
yeah,
I think
but
that is
I love funny stories, so bring them.
okay. Awesome. I will tell the world, and I'll keep that in mind
That
myself
sounds
too,
great. That sounds
because
great.
we all have that happen one time or another, and sometimes more than that by a long way. So,
Yeah, yep, I
but
identify with that.
oh yes, yes, yes. So do I. So well, Gina, thanks for being the guest today, and we'll put that in the show notes too for all where they
Well,
can get a hold of you, and
that sounds
um,
great.
maybe have a follow up podcast down the line if that would be something you'd be open
Yeah,
to,
that would be
and
fantastic.
we'll go there. And thanks again for joining us today on the Dreamcatcher podcast, and have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Then,
Thank you. And one last thing to the
yes,
viewer or to the listeners, follow your dreams.
amen. Yes, definitely follow your dreams, definitely. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.